A new season of the Premier League is finally starting, and on sorare it is crucial to get those value deals in the most popular division. For me personally, I only play Champion Europe. I'm focused in this year in just the Premier League. I've got 2 YouTube channels. Surely I know what I'm talking about. Well, that's for you to decide. Starting with my first player. Mitoma of Brighton is my first selection. I am incredibly confident in this pick. You know, you've got to think about why would someone like this be undervalued? And for me, the reason's simple. 99% of sorare players use the last 15 or the last 40. Both of Mitoma's are absolutely awful, 0 and 44. Why? Well, it's quite simple. He had an injury for most of last season. But let's flick back to 2 seasons ago when he wasn't injured and Brighton finished just below Liverpool and just above Aston Villa. That's how good that Brighton team were. Who was their best player? Mitoma. Now, that talent doesn't disappear. He's in his prime era, 27 years old. In terms of a brand new limited card, you can get for £28 or old season for £9. When you get that sort of price discretion, I would actually just stick with the old card and try and win a new card, but that's, more of just an opinion rather than fact. But if you look to rare, £98 for the rare. Now I'm going to try and base these valuations off rare. The reason for that, I play rare. I've been studying it for the last year and a half. I've of course got some legacy limited cards, but I don't even look at them, to be honest. I often forget to do lineups. So for me, these valuations were based on rare. But typically, if a player's undervalued, they'll be undervalued across all 4, especially in Mitoma's case where he's probably undervalued because of his last 15 and last 40 averages. My second selection, Enes Unal of Bournemouth, is slightly more risky. Now, he has been playing in the Premier League for the last season, but really never hit the ground, never really got that chance to start. Well, why might that be? Maybe Dominic Solanke, 19 goals in the Premier League. Ultimately, I think this is someone that flies under the radar just because of the fact he wasn't playing last season. People wouldn't have watched him in La Liga. But for those that do watch him in La Liga, just listen to Quinny talk about him, for example. Someone that knows ball goes out and says how good this guy is, and I can only back that up and support everything I've seen of this guy is fantastic. Now, you have the unknown certainty. There's the transfer window. Do they replace Solanke with another striker? Maybe Unal drops down the pecking order and again becomes a substitute. But at his talent, for the price in limited new card of £6, I still think you're getting a bargain where, let's say he is second choice, he's got that opportunity to go out and prove himself and then be a first choice starter at Bournemouth. I think he's perfectly at his level. He's in the prime at 27. I honestly think it's a good deal, especially, again, you flick to rare, a new season card for £20. I mean, can you really say that's not undervalued? Yes, he's not going to be instantly available for the start of the season. I think he's got a little injury. But that's even better for undervalued cards because everyone is so short-term focused on sorare, definitely myself included. Matthijs de Ligt is my third selection. I think plenty of you at home will be thinking exactly the same as me, or maybe thinking the complete opposite and he'll flop. That's the joy of football, that's the joy of an opinion. But in football, transfers can absolutely change how someone performs, and I think de Ligt could be the perfect example of that. When you look to Bayern, when he was looking to, struggle and be in and out of the team towards the end of last season, it really, in my opinion, wasn't his fault. There's plenty of other reasons that, the whole Bayern poison chalice, as I've called it in some of my other videos recently, it doesn't play. But when you move to Man United, there's a lot of pressure, so a lot of players can't handle it. But Bayern Munich, there's as much pressure, if not more pressure. So I don't think that's going to be a problem for de Ligt. It's just how talented is he? Look at his history, from Ajax to Juventus to Bayern Munich. At the age of 25, everyone that's watched him knows he's an absolute baller. I think a new start is going to be fantastic for him. In terms of limited, he did spike, but he's came all the way back down. You can get him for half price before you've even played a game of football. £25 in limited. Old season, you can get 12. We'll just focus on new seasons to make it easier for everyone. But £99 for, what is a top quality in one of the better sides in the Premier League. I mean, it's de Ligt. I think a lot of you will agree there. Moving in to the Scottish legend, Andy Robertson. Now, at 30 years old, you might be saying the best days are behind him, and I would agree. But I still think he is undervalued on sorare. even with a last 15 of 65. You know, recently, and I mean as recently as today, he's peaked in price for some reason. Now, I did this research before I did this video, so I can only hope that he's starting at the weekend and that's caused a spike, because I did have him in my lineups and I had to take him out. But ultimately, if you're looking at the old season card, which hasn't spiked, £11, or before the spike, £32, for one of the best defensive teams in the Premier League, for someone that isn't decisive dependent, but he can get decisive actions. I mean, you just flick back through some of the scores and you'll see recently 94, 100, 98, 91, 86. I picked him up before he hit all these spikes, and that's more just of a flex more than anything. But if you move to rare, you can just see without the spike, £133 for those types of scores. Those types of scores in the Premier League are like your Sons, your Sakas, your Odegaards. And look at the price differentials between them. Yes, defenders will always be cheaper, but for me, Andy Robertson, nailed to start. He just should be a little bit more expensive, which maybe today he has, but these are probably a short-term spike and he'll probably come back down to life. So for me, still undervalued. Our first goalkeeper, Aaron Ramsdale, and I think this one's a little more obvious to those at home, and it appears today, again, I've been caught out by a spike. But if anything, that just means I'm doing a good job in predicting these. I'm maybe just a day late to record. But essentially, Aaron Ramsdale is of that quality where he is a guaranteed first choice goalkeeper, except for at Arsenal where he's competing with Raya. So therefore, after a season sitting on the bench, or maybe 2 seasons now, it's time for him to move on almost certainly. The best part is there's plenty of Premier League clubs that are clearly in line to get him. And I think this spike will probably be the Mamadashvili news to Liverpool. That opens up a few more spaces for Ramsdale. It's a bit confusing. I am assuming that's the option. I read about it today. But overall, this spike hasn't really happened in rare, where you can pick them up for £141. Along with that, if you're like me, you're going to get a bonus on your Arsenal collection. You'll probably get a starting Premier League top quality keeper for £141. That is a bargain on sorare in the rare division. How about Matheus Cunha for my next selection? Now, you might be surprised with this because overall he played most of last season. I think he started 31 games, or he played 31 games, and his averages aren't crazy. But just what I expect from this player, from how good I've seen him play, I just think next season he's going to take a step up. And if I said I think he's going to take a step up, imagine last season he got more assists and more goals than this player. Keep in mind, Matheus Cunha, most expensive sale, £21 unlimited. More goals and more assists than Eze of Crystal Palace for £50. That is value at its finest, in my opinion. Let me know if you think I'm wrong, but there is more to come here. Now, you can do these videos, you can be very boring, pick undervalued players that everyone's picking and really they're not undervalued. Or you can be a little bit outrageous and say Mudryk is undervalued for next season. Now this is, of course, is very opinion based, but he's only 23 years old. He's either played, I think, 2 seasons or 1.5 seasons in the Premier League now. We know he hasn't been his 90 or 100 million euros, whatever he was sold for, valuation. But he didn't go for that valuation for no reason. He has ridiculous talents. I think he's a little bit, nervous. I've said it before in the Premier League, just where it takes time to gel. Well, now I think it's time. At 23 years old, he's got more of a starting spot where he actually gets that opportunity. All it's going to take is a couple of good games where you'll finally see the sort of Mudryk that went and absolutely destroyed Celtic. I was watching that in tears. I know he is outstanding. He's just going to take time. And in terms of that risk reward, well, you can get him for £15, a player that would easily be £150 if he was, performing at where Chelsea thought they were buying him. So for me, this is just an undervalued player. I understand £40 in rare, man. Oh my God. I've got to get myself one. I really do. But again, it is opinion based here. There isn't many stats to go off. It's just eventually, I think this kid will rock the world of the Premier League. And I'm going to say it's this season. Even though Chelsea do have the most ridiculous amount of depth and just players which are going to make it difficult to predict. But that's Chelsea's fault, not mine. This is a super cheap option for some of you traders or some of you low value sorare players, where in limited you can pick up this card for a new season of £6, or today it's sold for 86p. Now, Is it a little bit risky? Of course. They've got a fantastic player in the form of Barco that's playing left wing or left wing back. But at 20 years old in the Premier League with very little experience, I know he's good, but he is not guaranteed that starting spot. If we flick to rare, you can buy a Stupinian for £12 in a new season or 17 from the auction, which is still crazy to think about. I mean, that's the sort of prices I was paying last season just to get 10 extra collection points. So keep that in mind and imagine this player's injured, so of course Barco's going to start, but he will be available very shortly. Last season, when I just won him for finishing in first place, £170 I sold him for, and before that he was selling for £200. So to be at £16 in a brand new season where there's zero evidence that he's lost his starting spot or that he's absolutely awful at 26 years old, again, it's just someone I'm really passionate about that I think, for me, I would go out and buy. We're going to finish by pumping my own bags in the form of Diogo Jota. And to be honest, it's probably one of the players in this video that I'm least educated about. It's just from the last couple of weeks, or yeah, just from pre-season really, where I'm like, I didn't expect this to happen, but is he potentially getting the centre-forward starting spot for Liverpool, where he was trading at like 16, he's already up to like, what would he say, like £31 in rare, but still not much movement. Oh, that was in limited, sorry. But still not much movement in the rare side. You can pick him up for £87. Keep in mind, I picked him up what I thought was the lowest ever for £48. Now he looks like he's getting a potential starting spot, I mean, at least for the first game of the season, and we'll see how he does, for £87. On the face of it, just to drill in, you know, a little bit deeper on it, they've got a brand new manager, and it's clearly he wants to play him up front between him and Nunez. In my opinion, this player is a better player than Darwin Nunez. Now, I think they'll play, you know, honestly, they're better for different situations. Like, Nunez a lot, you know, stronger and bigger. But Jota overall, I would expect to start more games. And if he gets the returns like he did in pre-season, I honestly think this £80 would just be ridiculously low. So let me know what you think about all of these. Check out my last sorare journey video and like it if you enjoyed. All the best. Cheers.